The scream of the wind was so loud it swallowed every other sound. Not the howl of an ordinary storm. This was a living thing. It clawed at rooftops. It battered frozen trees until their branches snapped like bones. It dragged snow across the ground so violently that the earth itself seemed to vanish beneath a white blur. The temperature had plunged to -71 degrees Celsius. At that cold, exposed skin burned within seconds. Breath froze in the lungs. Metal shattered. Engines died. Even the strongest men in the village stayed locked behind doors, praying their heaters would last one more night. And out in that white, endless death, something small collapsed. A dog. She staggered forward on shaking legs, ribs visible beneath frost-clumped fur. Ice coated her whiskers. Her paws were raw and bleeding, each step sending pain straight into her bones. But she did not stop, because hanging from her mouth, clenched gently despite her terror, was her puppy. The puppy didn't move. Its tiny body swung with each step, limp, frozen, silent. The mother dog whimpered as the wind slammed into her side and knocked her down. Snow immediately began covering her back like a burial shroud. She tried to stand, failed, tried again. Her eyes darted wildly through the blizzard, not searching for shelter, searching for hope. Then she saw it. A faint orange glow, barely visible through the storm. A single lantern flickering in the distance. The dog gathered every remaining shred of strength in her dying body and forced herself upright. One paw at a time, one breath at a time, she dragged herself toward that light as if it were the last thing tethering her to life. Inside the small wooden cabin, Grandma Ebel coughed into her shawl. The fire was low again. She pushed herself closer to the hearth, her thin hands trembling as she added another piece of firewood, one she had promised herself she would save for morning. The cold gnawed at her joints, her knees ached, her chest felt tight, every breath burned. 80 years old, a widow for more than 20 winters, alone on the edge of a frozen village everyone else had already abandoned for warmer homes. She lifted her cup of ginger tea, but before she could sip it, scratch, she froze. The sound was faint, almost imaginary. The wind slammed against the walls again, rattling the door violently. Grandma Ebel swallowed. Just the storm, she whispered to herself. Then it came again. Scratch. Weaker this time. Slower. Desperate. Her heart thudded painfully in her chest. No one came out in storms like this. Everyone knew better. Everyone stayed alive by staying inside. She stood anyway. Her legs protested as she shuffled toward the door, pulling her shawl tighter around her shoulders. Who would be out there? She murmured. Her hand wrapped around the door latch. The moment she opened it, the storm exploded into the cabin. Wind tore inside like a wild animal. Snow blasted across the floor. The lantern flickered violently. And there, half buried at her doorstep, was the dog. The mother collapsed forward, snow caking her face, her body shaking so violently it looked like she might shatter. The puppy slid from her mouth and landed softly on the frozen wood. Still not moving. Grandma Ebel gasped. Oh my God! The dog lifted her head with visible effort and locked eyes with the old woman. Those eyes were not feral. They were not wild. They were pleading. A low, broken whimper escaped her throat as she nudged the puppy forward with her nose. Once, twice, before her strength finally gave out. The dog collapsed, right there on the threshold between life and death. For a single terrifying second, Grandma Ebel hesitated. The cold poured into the room like poison. Her hands instantly went numb. She knew the truth, letting the storm inside could kill her. Helping them could cost her the firewood she needed to survive the night. She was old. She was alone. And this winter had already taken so much. But then she looked down at the puppy. Tiny, helpless, its fur stiff with ice. And she remembered her husband's last words before the cold winter fever took him years ago. If your heart still feels warm, you're not done yet. Grandma Ebel dropped to her knees. "Come in," she whispered urgently. "Please come in." She scooped the puppy into her arms. Its body was terrifyingly cold, like holding a piece of frozen cloth instead of a living thing. She pulled with her other hand, dragging the mother dog inside as snow piled at the doorway. The dog didn't resist, didn't growl. She simply allowed herself to be saved. Grandma Ebel slammed the door shut with her shoulder. The storm raged outside. Inside, the cabin trembled with silence. She wrapped the puppy in her wool scarf and pressed it gently against her chest, rocking back and forth. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Please stay." The mother dog crawled closer to the fire, collapsing with a heavy thud. Steam rose from her fur as ice began to melt. Grandma Ebel moved fast despite her age. She added more firewood, ignoring the voice in her head screaming that she would need it later. She poured warm water into a bowl and slid it toward the dog. "Drink," she said softly. "You're safe now." The dog lifted her head weakly and lapped at the water, each movement slow and painful. Minutes passed. Then something miraculous happened. The puppy twitched. A tiny sound escaped its mouth, not a cry but proof of life. The mother dog lifted her head instantly, eyes wide, tail thumping weakly once against the floor. Grandma Ebel's breath caught. "Oh, thank you," she whispered, tears streaming freely now. Outside, the storm screamed louder, as if angry it had lost its prey. Inside that fragile cabin, an impossible thing was happening. Life was fighting back. And none of them yet knew that this single act of kindness, on the coldest night in 50 years, was about to change an entire village forever. Before the full story continues, please consider subscribing. I worked incredibly hard to craft this story just for you. Morning did not arrive with light. It arrived with silence. The storm that had screamed through the night finally loosened its grip, leaving behind a frozen stillness so complete it felt unnatural, as if the world itself had stopped breathing. Grandma Ebel opened her eyes slowly. For a moment, she couldn't remember where she was. Her body ached in places she didn't know could ache. Her hands were numb. Her back was stiff from sleeping upright in the old wooden chair beside the fire. Then she felt it. Warmth. A small, rhythmic rise and fall against her chest. She looked down. The puppy, wrapped in her wool scarf, curled against her like a fragile ember, breathing shallow but steady. A sob escaped her lips before she could stop it. "You stayed," she whispered. "You stayed with me." By the fire, the mother dog lifted her head. One ear twitched. Her eyes followed Grandma Ebel's movement carefully, cautiously, not with fear, but with something else. Trust. The fire crackled weakly. Only 2 small pieces of firewood remained beside the hearth. Grandma Ebel's heart sank. She had burned nearly everything she had left during the night. For the first time since opening her door, doubt crept in. What have I done? She shifted in her chair, joints screaming in protest, and gently laid the puppy down on a folded blanket near the fire. Its tiny chest continued to rise and fall. Alive. That was all that mattered. The cabin was painfully small, a single room with uneven wooden floors, a narrow bed pushed against the wall, shelves filled with jars of dried herbs, and a table that wobbled if you leaned on it wrong. This place had been built by her husband over 40 years ago. Back when laughter filled the room. Back when winters were cold, but not murderous. She pulled her shawl tighter and stared at the frost creeping across the inside of the window, forming sharp white veins like cracks in glass. This winter was different. This winter took things. Years ago, it had taken her husband, Abena. He had been a strong man once, broad shoulders, calloused hands, a voice that filled rooms. But age and cold had slowly stolen him. One feverish night during a harsh winter, he had slipped away quietly, holding her hand. After the burial, people came less and less. And then not at all. The village moved inward, closer to the center, closer to warmth and community. Grandma Ebel stayed behind, too stubborn or too loyal to leave the home where every wall held a memory. "Someone must keep the light on," she used to say. But lately, that light had been flickering. She rose slowly and reached for the kettle. The last of her water sloshed faintly inside. She placed it on the fire anyway. The mother dog watched her closely, every muscle tense. "It's all right," Grandma Ebel said softly, sensing her fear. "I won't take your baby." The dog relaxed slightly. Grandma Ebel poured warm water into a cracked bowl and slid it across the floor. Then she broke off a small piece of boiled yam, the very last of her food, and placed it beside the bowl. The dog hesitated. She sniffed the yam, then looked back at the puppy. Only after Grandma Ebel nodded gently did she eat. That moment, that quiet, wordless permission, stitched something invisible between them. Outside, the world slowly returned. Footsteps crunched in the snow. Voices murmured. Grandma Ebel stiffened. She hadn't heard human voices near her cabin in weeks. She peered through the frost-stained window and saw a small group of villagers standing in the distance, pointing toward her door. Fresh paw prints were visible in the snow, a clear trail leading straight to her home. Whispers spread quickly in small villages. By midday, a knock echoed against her door. She hesitated. Then she opened it. A young girl stood there, cheeks red from the cold, her scarf pulled high. Behind her stood two men and an older woman, all bundled tightly. "We saw the tracks," the girl said softly. "Are you all right, Grandma Ebel?" The old woman nodded slowly. "I am," she said, "but they were." The villager's eyes fell to the floor, to the dog curled protectively around her puppy. Gasps followed. "You brought them inside?" one man asked, stunned. "In this cold," another whispered. Grandma Ebel straightened her back. "Yes." No apology, no explanation. Just truth. Something shifted in the air. The older woman stepped forward and placed a bundle of firewood at the doorstep. "You shouldn't be alone out here anymore," she said quietly. Others followed. A thermos of soup, a folded blanket, a bag of dry dog food. The young girl knelt and smiled at the puppy as it stirred weakly. "She's going to live," she said with certainty. That night, Grandma Ebel lay in bed for the first time in days. The mother dog curled at her feet like a silent guardian. The fire burned warmer than it had in years. Not because of the wood, but because of the people who finally remembered her. And the dog, the once feral, desperate creature, rested her head on Grandma Ebel's ankle, eyes half closed, breathing slow and calm. Trust had taken root. But beyond the walls of that fragile cabin, the cold still ruled, and survival would soon demand more than kindness alone. The village had not truly awakened yet. It was still moving cautiously, as if afraid the storm might return the moment everyone relaxed. Smoke rose thin and pale from chimneys. Snowdrifts stood frozen where the wind had abandoned them, shaped like waves that would never crash. But word traveled fast. By the third morning after the storm, everyone knew. Grandma Ebel had taken in a stray dog and her puppy during the deadliest night of the winter. Some called it foolish. Others called it brave. A few called it dangerous. At the edge of the village square, three men stood close together, voices low, eyes fixed on the distant outline of Grandma Ebel's cabin. "She's old," one muttered. "She barely survives on her own." And now she's feeding animals, another scoffed. That food could have gone to someone who matters. The third man said nothing. His name was Ibrahim. He was not cruel by nature, just hardened by necessity. A former hunter, now a trapper, he lived by one rule: survive the winter no matter the cost. And winter had already taken his wife 2 years earlier. He shifted his weight and stared at the snow. "There's been talk," he finally said, "about wolves moving closer. If dogs stay, predators follow." The others nodded. Fear had a way of spreading faster than compassion. That same afternoon, Grandma Ebel knelt beside the fire, gently rubbing the mother dog's paws with warm cloths soaked in salt water. Frostbite had split the skin in places. The dog flinched but did not pull away. "I know," the old woman murmured. "It hurts, but if we don't clean it, it will get worse." The dog's ears flattened, but she endured it, eyes fixed on her puppy, who had begun to crawl clumsily across the blanket. Each tiny movement felt like a victory. A soft knock came at the door. Grandma Ebel rose slowly and opened it. Ibrahim stood there, hat pulled low, eyes careful. "I came to check on you," he said, "and the animals." She studied him for a long moment. "I am well," she replied. "They are healing." His gaze drifted inside. "They can't stay long," he said gently but firmly. "You know that." Her hands tightened around the doorframe. "They would be dead if they hadn't come," she said. "I know," Ibrahim replied, "but winter doesn't care about kindness." Silence stretched between them. Finally he sighed. "There's fear in the village. People are worried. If predators smell animals, they'll come, and if supplies run low." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. That night, Grandma Ebel lay awake listening to the fire pop and crack. The mother dog lifted her head at every sound outside, body tense. "We might have to leave," the old woman whispered to her, though she wasn't sure if she meant the dogs or herself. The next day, something unsettling happened. Fresh tracks appeared near the tree line. Large, heavy, wolves. The village gathered again, this time louder, angrier. "This is exactly what we warned about," one man shouted. "They'll come for the animals first," another said, "then the children." Eyes turned toward the cabin on the outskirts, toward Grandma Ebel. Ibrahim felt his stomach twist. He volunteered to go speak to her again. When he arrived, the old woman was seated on the floor, the puppy curled in her lap, the mother dog pressed protectively against her side. "They want the dogs gone," he said quietly. "And then what?" she asked. "Leave them outside to freeze, to be torn apart?" He had no answer. "I lost my wife to this cold," he said instead. "I know what it takes." She met his gaze. "And I lost my husband," she replied, "and I know what it takes to stay human." That night the howls began. Low, distant, but unmistakable. The mother dog growled softly, positioning herself between the door and the puppy. Grandma Ebel's heart pounded. The village had lights burning late into the night. Torches were prepared, rifles cleaned. If wolves came, someone would get hurt. And if the dog stayed, so would Grandma Ebel. Kindness had saved lives. Now it was threatening them. And everyone would soon have to choose which mattered more. The night stretched long and heavy, as if time itself had slowed under the weight of the cold. Inside the cabin, the fire burned low, casting long, trembling shadows against the walls. Grandma Ebel sat on the floor, her back against the bed, the puppy nestled inside her shawl. The mother dog lay close, her body curved protectively around them both. Outside, the distant howls faded, but none of them slept. Grandma Ebel broke the silence first. "I used to sing in this room," she said softly, staring into the flames. "Did you know that?" The dog's ears twitched. "My husband said my voice chased the cold away." A small smile touched her lips, After he died, I stopped. The house felt too quiet, like it didn't deserve music anymore. She reached out and gently stroked the mother dog's head. But you came anyway, she continued. In the worst night of the worst winter, you came to me. The dog lifted her head and licked the old woman's hand, slow, careful, deliberate. Something in Grandma Ebel's chest loosened. Over the next days, routines formed. She warmed water every morning to clean the dog's wounds. She mashed dried grains into soft meals for the puppy. The mother dog followed her everywhere, a silent shadow, eyes alert, body always between Grandma Ebel and the door. In return, the dog gave something precious. Purpose. For the first time in years, Grandma Ebel woke with a reason to rise. One afternoon, Ibrahim returned carrying firewood. I told them I'd keep an eye on things, he said gruffly, stacking the wood neatly by the hearth. She looked at him in surprise. You don't have to. I know. He paused, watching the puppy wobble across the floor. I had a dog once, he said quietly, before everything hardened. That was all he offered. But it was enough. The puppy grew stronger each day, barking softly, tail wagging wildly whenever Grandma Ebel laughed, which she was doing more often now. The old woman began singing again. Low at first, then louder. The mother dog would close her eyes, soothed by the sound. Even Ibrahim felt something shift when he heard it from outside, a warmth that had nothing to do with fire. But kindness does not silence hunger. The wolves returned. Closer this time. Tracks circled the cabin. One night a shadow passed the window. The mother dog snarled deep, fierce, fearless. Grandma Ebel's hands shook as she bolted the door. The village convened at dawn. We can't risk it anymore, someone said. The animals must go. Ibrahim stood in the back, fists clenched. They'll die, he said. And if they stay, someone else might. The decision was made. By nightfall, they would remove the dogs by force if necessary. Ibrahim ran. He burst into the cabin, breath fogging the air. They're coming, he said urgently, tonight. Grandma Ebel did not cry. She knelt and opened an old wooden chest. From inside, she withdrew a small bronze key on a faded red string. My husband gave me this, she said. It opens the storage cellar beneath the old chapel. It's warm, hidden. She placed it in Ibrahim's hand. Take them, she whispered. Protect them. The mother dog pressed her forehead against Grandma Ebel's chest, whining softly. I know, the old woman murmured. I know. Torches appeared in the distance. Time was gone. They moved quickly, slipping through the back trail into the trees. Behind them, the village lights glowed, closer than ever. And Grandma Ebel stood alone in her cabin. Waiting. The wind had shifted by the time night fell. Not calmer, just sharper. Ibrahim moved fast through the trees, the bronze key clutched tightly in his glove. The mother dog stayed close to his side, never once lagging, the puppy bundled inside his coat, warm and alive. Behind them, torches bobbed like angry stars. Every step away from the cabin felt heavier than the last. At the edge of the old chapel, Ibrahim fumbled with the key. His fingers were stiff with cold and fear. The lock resisted, then gave way with a dull click. Inside the cellar, warmth breathed up from the earth. Safe. He knelt and set the puppy down. The mother dog circled once, then pressed her nose to the ground, relief pouring through her. Ibrahim swallowed hard. I don't know why she trusts me, he whispered, but I won't break it. He tied the red string around the puppy's neck, not tight, just enough to rest against its chest. Your promise, he said softly. Miles away, though it felt like a lifetime, Grandma Ebel sat alone in her cabin. She had left the door unlocked. If the villagers came, she would not hide. She held a small photograph in her hands, her and Abena, smiling in a summer long gone. "I kept the light on," she whispered, "just like we said." The wolves struck first. A howl split the night, closer than ever before. Villagers panicked, torches swung wildly, shots rang out echoing useless. One wolf lunged from the shadows. The mother dog burst forward with a ferocity no one expected, teeth bared, body a shield between danger and her child, even now, even hidden. Ibrahim shouted, firing into the air. The wolf retreated, snarling, disappearing into darkness. Silence followed. Then another sound. A voice. "Grandma Ebel." Ibrahim froze. She stood at the edge of the clearing, lantern raised high, her thin frame unyielding against the night. "You don't need to fear," she called. "Not the animals, not each other." The villagers hesitated. She stepped forward. "These dogs taught me something," she said. "That survival without mercy is just another kind of death." A long pause. Then the young girl from before stepped forward. "I'll help," she said. Another followed. Then another. The wolves faded. Not chased away by weapons, but by unity. Spring came slowly, cautiously, as if afraid to promise too much. The snow melted, the ice retreated, the world breathed again. The dog stayed. The puppy grew strong, racing through fields of green. The mother dog never left Grandma Ebel's side. The village changed. People checked on one another, shared meals, repaired homes. The heater in Grandma Ebel's cabin was fixed. The roof no longer leaked. And every evening, a lantern still glowed at her door. One day, Ibrahim returned the bronze key. "I think it belongs with you," he said. She smiled. "No," she replied, placing it back in his hand. "It belongs to all of us now." The puppy barked, tail wagging wildly, the red string still around its neck. A promise kept. A kindness returned. And in a world that once nearly froze to death, warmth finally won. What powerful lesson did you take away from this story today?